Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site with plot synopsis and character bios for the story we are about to go through today. So, we're continuing our run of X-Men, particularly Chris Claremont's X-Men. We started out with Classic X-Men number 1. We're now on number 26. I do have a playlist. The reason I choose Classic X-Men is because of the exposition and the backup stories that were included in these issues. This is how I discovered X-Men when I was growing up. I was, 14 years old when number 26 came out. I'd been collecting from the very beginning, read them to pieces, tethered, and goodness gracious, they are in the worst condition, but I love them. That's what comic books should be, read and read and read and read. That's why I like digital comics. None of the wear and tear, none of the having to make room for it. I still have plenty of long boxes, but to me, digital is the better option. So, physical copies are a thing of the past for me. I am uh, just happy with what I got. So, all right. Doesn't mean I stopped collecting. I just don't collect as feverishly. Um, Classic X-Men number 26. I do love this cover. I actually love this cover more than the original. A lot of these Classic X-Men covers are, I think, even better. So, Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. This is going to be the first appearance of Alpha Flight. And this is kind of what the original cover looked like by Dave Cockrum. No, Bob Budiansky was the penciler of that cover. And so here it gives you a plot of what we're about to see. Then it tells you about the new pages. Um, exploring Vindicator's internal conflict between his orders and friendships. They tease Alpha Flight's debut and continue building on Phoenix Griff over Cyclops and the growing alienation from everyday humanity. So, um, and it says here, aside from the added pages, issues 26 reprint does not contain any major edits. X-Men 120 is more or less unaltered. And then on the backup story, set between 121 and 122, features a bonding session between Banshee and Wolverine as they learn they crossed paths 20 years before without realizing it. So here is a bigger version of the cover here. We see Alpha Flight. So we've got, I think this is Shaman, Sasquatch, and Vindicator kind of watching the X-Men on a monitor. Classic X-Men came without any ads. So you had the cover and then you had this frontispiece. The original cover was on the last page before the back cover, so the last where there would be an ad. So, and Chris Claremont does continue on with the supplemental with John Byrne. The backup story is written by Tom Orzechowski, who will letter it. And then, of course, John Bolton will be the. I don't think Tom Orzechowski has very many credits as far as writing. So, the title of our story is Wanted Wolverine, Dead or Alive. And so, we're in Canada here, Ottawa, Ontario, in a war room. Kind of like the Danger Room, I guess. And we got Vindicator here and some politician here, kind of like the Canadian version of Shield. I love the detail that John Byrne puts in with these computer consoles here. So, this gentleman here says, "I recognize Weapon X, Hudson. the one you codenamed Wolverine, but who the blazes are those others? And Vindicator says, whose name is eventually changed to Guardian. He says, they're called the X-Men, Prime Minister. They're an unofficial team of so-called superheroes. We also believe that, like Wolverine, they're all mutants. Beyond that, we know very little. They're dangerous in fights. They're based near New York City, and there are hints of possible connections to the U.S. government. And so the other gentleman here says, I don't care if they have definite connections to the Boy Scouts. They have Weapon X. I want him back. We spent a lot of money and resources developing and training him, not to mention your group as well, and I won't see it thrown away. I realize that, Prime Minister, but Wolverine resigned, says Vindicator. Then he can simply unresign, Dr. Hudson, understand? Yes, sir, I won't fail you like last time. If anyone on Earth has a prayer of corralling Wolverine, it's Alpha Flight. So you can see here that this is the 70s. They don't have, they use cars. They don't have floppies yet. They don't have CDs. It's a different way of storing data. So, and so we get a little bit on each member of Alpha Flight here. So we got oh my goodness, I forgot. Oh my goodness gracious. This is Shaman, Snowbird, Sasquatch, and then this is his sister. Oh my god. Oh, here they are. Their names were down here. I completely forgot. I didn't see that part. So North Star. Oh my goodness gracious. And then Aurora. So these are the members of Alpha Flight. Eventually Vindicator's wife will take over when Vindicator dies in Alpha Flight, which I don't think we'll end up covering Alpha Flight. So this is supplemental pages here, and Vindicator's kind of watching these monitors here and or computer screens and says they'll be here soon. Our first mission as a team. Not quite what I had in mind. Back when this all started, you and me, chum. Me, the Brain Boy, you, the Bruiser. We'd be the nucleus of a supergroup whose charter would be to protect Canada. So we wouldn't have to depend on foreigners like the Avengers of S.H.I.E.L.D. National pride goeth before personal fall, he thinks. And so you can see here a phone is ringing. No cell phones back then. Yukon Oil, good morning, Mr. Beersford's office. Having a nice day, sweetheart? Passable. The usual corporate crisis dealt with in my usual scintillating, efficient manner. And then over the phone, wish you could apply the talents down my neck of the woods. And she says, trouble? The boss won't take no for an answer. We have to bring Logan back. Oh, Mac, even if you succeed, he'll just skip again, first chance he gets. And so Vindicator says, I've talked myself hoarse explaining that. I told them it's better to keep the X-Men as our friends. We may need their help someday. But he's adamant. Interesting choice of word. So is Wolverine, body and soul. I know. You could refuse, Mac. You did that before with Roxanne. And Vindicator says, this isn't a corporation, Heather. This is my country. I took an oath. Whatever happens, I have to believe it's for the best. So, all right. So we still have supplemental material here. And we're in Scotland. And Jean Grey is kind of going for a jog. It's cold. You can see her breath going out. And so you can see she's going over a cliff and kind of turns into Phoenix here. And so we got Moira McTaggart here kind of thinking about Banshee because they believe he is dead. I have a playlist, like I said before, covering every single issue. And we're going to go all the way to the end. And it won't take me 12 years. I'm actually building up enough episodes to hopefully start doing this daily, if not weekly at least. So, all right. And so as she keeps thinking, um, here comes Moira McTaggart and sees the Phoenix, and she's like, "Ah, sunrise isn't due for another 2 hours yet." And then, of course, sees Phoenix, who is not dressed exactly for the cold weather. In fact, she makes a point here saying the cold doesn't really bother you then. And Jean Grey says, "Not cold, no rain, nor sleet, nor hail, nor gloom of night. I'd make a heck of a mailman. Have some luck. Have all. Some have all the luck." Um, and Jean says, "Yeah, but is it good or bad?" And so McTaggart gives her some coffee, I suppose. Could be tea or hot chocolate here. So that's the question so far. I'd say so far so good. And Jean Grey says, "You ever hear the old joke? Man jumps off the Empire State Building, and as he passes each floor, people hear him say, 'So far, so good.'" And McTaggart says, "Awfully bleak assessment." And Jean says, "You're the one to talk sitting out here, and you call yourself a doctor. You must be freezing, Moira. I have my reason, lassies. By the way, they're doctors, but they're not doctors of medicine. So, real quick here, I love. I don't have the guts to do it. But these lines here are done for cheekbones. I don't know. It was just marks that were done early on, and they still continued doing them. Eventually, they stopped. I don't think you see that very more, but so anyway, Gene says probably the same as why I run at night. I love Sean. I love Scott. Sorry, you love Sean. I love Scott. You know another ramification of being Phoenix. I don't need this. Not food, not drink. I still like the taste of sensations, but as sustenance, they aren't necessary, Gene says. I call myself human, but there are times, Moira, when I feel like I have more in common with them, the stars in the sky, than with other people. Sometimes I can't help thinking I should have died in that shuttle. Resurrection is for God. We humans should leave well enough alone. This is why I went to classic X-Men for this exposition, for these extra stuff that just gives you a little bit more insight. And Jean, you can see her here start crying here. "And what was the point?" she asks. "I saved the X-Men then so that they could die a few months later. Thanks a lot. Scott used to say I was his window on the normal world. With me, he could try to touch feelings he'd spent a lifetime locking away to keep himself from being hurt. But he was my anchor as well, and never more so than after this, my change. His strength, his love reminded me, reinforced what it meant to be human without him." And you can see here she lays down next to Moira here and says, I know," says Moira. "The hurt seems more than you can bear." And Moira continues, "And the fear of the unknown, of the future, is even worse. But you mustn't despair, my pet. You've friends aplenty who'll serve as your anchors, and with their help, God willing, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." She continues here. We can see a little bit of where they are on Mirror Isle. So, all right. So, we're back to the original issue here. So, if you remember, they were trapped by Magneto. Then they went to the Savage Land. Then they ended up in Japan. So, they're hoping to make it back to New York. So, Sunfire says, "Sayonara, my friend, and thank you for all the help you gave me in Japan. I was proud to fight by your side and would be honored to do so again. Farewell." And Cyclops says, "The feeling's mutual, Shiro. Remember, if you're ever in the States, our home is yours." So you see them here shaking hands. And then Banshee is hurt. He blew out his vocal cords fighting Moses Magnum in our previous issue. And he whispers to Cyclops, "Done with the ceremonies, are we, laddie?" "That we are, Banshee, and about time too. Come on, people, let's board the plane." I love it. They're boarding in just their costumes. So, wait a moment, Cyclops. Where's Wolverine? Says Nightcrawler. And so here, of course, we got Mariko, and she's thinking she's in this limousine here. I like the X-Men. She thinks I will miss them, especially. And then you hear a tap. Someone outside, but who? And then we see someone here give her a glove, a white chrysanthemum. My wife's a gardener, so I know all about that. And she says, "What is this?" And Wolverine says, "A gift, little one, from a friend, something to remember him by." It is very beautiful, Wolverine said, and so are you. Mariko-chan, my name is Logan. Be seeing you. This is the first time Wolverine mentions his name. He had previously started. He said low, but then was interrupted. So he this is the first time he says the name. So, all right. So here goes, and the airplane's now headed toward the United States here. So there's a storm here that's apparently getting worse. Anchorage and Juneau, I don't know how to say Janu. Airports are closed. Conditions in Vancouver and Seattle deteriorating. Looks like we'll have to jump to the Rockies. And she says, "Take over, Jill. I'll go tell our passengers here." By the way, it looks like the X-Men are out of uniform. So the pilot here says, "I'll be." They finally fell asleep. Scott Summer and Colleen Wing have been together and talking nonstop since we left Tokyo. And she says, "Pity I have to break it up." "Excuse me, Mr. Summers," says the pilot. "Could you come up to the flight deck? I think we have a problem." And he goes in and asks, "What's wrong?" So she says the forecast was clear all the way to New York, but a freak blizzard blew from nowhere. It shut down every airport west of the Rockies. We changed our course for San Francisco, and the storm moved to cut us off. We vectored for Hawaii, and it closed in around us. That's definitely not a normal storm, he says. "Scott, I sense a wrongness about this," says Storm. "I was just about to call you, Ororo. We've run into some very single-minded weather. Can you do something about it?" And she says, "I can try." And here you can see, because she's wearing her robe, so naked. And Storm says, "Cyclops, the storm resists me. Some some outside force and intelligence controls it." And this other pilot says, "For the love of heaven, Summers, no more strain. The strain is starting to tear the plane apart." "That's enough, Ororo. Someone's obviously going to a lot of trouble to capture us, and I, for one, am curious as to find why." And so, the storm is causing them to go into the province of Alberta. So, Storm says, "Wolverine's here, Scott. Shall I wake the others?" And Cyclops says, "Not yet. Let them get all the rest they can need. They'll need it. How are we doing?" And the brown-haired pilot, I don't think they mentioned their names. "This crate is a flying gas can, Scott, but even it has its limits. With Edmonton socked in, we're either land at Calgary or we crash." So they talk. I love the name Shooter, like Jim Shooter. So they ask for permission, and they're granted permission to land. And so once they're landing, he says, "That's odd. The taxi route the tower gave us will take us about as far from the terminal as we can get." And Cyclops says, "Storm, get everybody up. Annie, hit the brakes fast. There's a man on the runway." Of course, it's Vindicator here. "Wolverine, you know who this is, and you know why I'm here. Surrender now, and your friends don't get hurt. Resist, and I won't be responsible for what happens. You've got 1 minute to make up your mind." 1 minute. All right. "What the? Isn't he the character who attacked you last summer?" And Wolverine says, "Stay out of this, bub. It's my fight," as he pops his claws. And Cyclops says, "She's your claws, Wolverine. This isn't the time or place for a rumble. Not with innocent people aboard. Turn this crate around and get us off the ground. You heard the man, Jill." And she says, "The wheel isn't answering, Annie. It's this is crazy. I've got the engines at full throttles, but we're standing still." Um, and here comes Banshee and Colossus and Nightcrawler. Everybody's dressed except Nightcrawler. Apparently, he stays in uniform. And so Nightcrawler says he takes a look out the window and sees Sasquatch here holding the airplane. And so he picks up the airplane and tosses it. So heading toward the hangar. That is quite dangerous, and I probably wouldn't have done that, but hey, it's a comic book. So Sasquatch, you incredible lummox! I told you to stop the plane, not smash it. And Sasquatch says, "Sorry about that, Vindicator. I guess I still don't know my own strength." So that's for sure. I thought only the Hulk was capable of stunts like this. Good thing that Tower said they were almost out of fuel. That should lessen the chance of a flower. Even so, I better uh, get out, get everyone out of this wreck as fast as possible. So he scans the airplane, but there's nobody there. He says the plane's empty. And he says, "Hey, the storm, it just doubled its intensity and closed in over the airport like a blanket. It's not supposed to do that." And he flies to, it says, "Shaman, I thought we're going to phase out your blizzard at the moment the plane touched down." And he says, "This is not my doing, Vindicator. One of the X-Men must have power over the elements. He is turning my weather spell against me, and I don't know if I can stop him." So, Wolverine, of course, is not happy having to run away again. "We cut things real close, boss, but we all got out okay, and no one spotted us." And Cyclops says, "Thanks, Wolverine. Ororo, Storm should give us cover all the way to the terminal. We plan our next move when we're out of this wind," he says. And so, and Wolverine, I want some straight answers from from you. This is the second time that Major Maple Leaf has called you out, and this time he brought friends. Who are they and why are they after you? "I told you, bub, it's my fight." And Cyclops says, "Not anymore." So they get to the terminal, and Colossus says, "The coast is clear, Cyclops." And so then let's move, people, and hope the airport isn't wall-to-wall Mounties. So far, so good. The blizzard's trapped a lot of planes here. With luck, we can fade into the crowd. I'm waiting. I'm waiting, Wolverine. "I heard ya. They ain't villain folk. They're what I used to be. Canadian government agents. Jim Hudson, Major Maple Leaf, is head of a project to develop a team of Canadian superheroes. He started by looking for mutants, same as Professor X. He found me." And so you can see the X-Men are going down. "I was his guinea pig, his first big success, his only failure. Hudson gambled on me. While all the shrinks said I was uncontrollable psycho, in the end, I proved him right. Funny, I thought I resigned. My mistake. I was operational when Hudson gathered the rest of Alpha Flight. Outside of him, I don't know who we're up against or how many." And so Cyclops says, "Then we split up. Our disappearance act has thrown them off balance, and I mean to keep it that way. So, I spotted a huge concrete tower in the center of the city. We'll rendezvous there." So, Nightcrawler's impressed. He went 7 miles and 3 jumps. So he's impressed that he's able to make it farther with his teleporting. And so Nightcrawler's not very impressed with Calgary, but soon he is attacked, and we can see that it's Aurora and oh my God, I already forgot his name again. Oh my goodness, North Star. So you can see them. They punch Nightcrawler out. He says he's unconscious, sister. 1 down, 5 to go. And Aurora says, "You hit him very hard, brother. I hope he isn't hurt. Despite his appearance, he is like us, a mutant. I don't like hunting my own kind," she says. And so we got the rest of the X-Men here. And Colossus says there's no sign of Nightcrawler. And Cyclops continues, or Banshee, Storm, or Wolverine. And Misty Knight says, "Relax, Scott. We made it pretty good time. Maybe the others just got holed up." And Cyclops says, "Maybe, Misty, but we're on Hudson's turf, fighting by his rules. We can't afford even one mistake." So, the X-Men are out shopping for clothes to be able to hide, and Banshee says, "Well, unless you disguise Storm, because of her how tall she is and her white hair, she's very easy to spot." Then of course he's smoking here, and he's like, "I should quit smoking." Doctor had said that his sonic scream needs to heal, and even then he may not be able to ever scream again. So, all right, so here's Storm, and they said, "What do you think?" And the sales lady says, "I love it." And Banshee's like, "I'm not so sure. I mean, it's a grand outfit, but Ororo, it looks like, I don't know. I guess I'm used to seeing her in the wild." And he goes, "I don't understand." And Storm says, "I do." And Sean is correct. "I feel smothered in all these clothes." And she says, "They're supposed to keep you warm." And, or that was the pilot. And she says, "Why? I am never cold." Oh, well, back to the fitting room. So, all right. And so here's Vindicator. Vindicator says that the X-Men won't be able to get away very long. Their systems, um, the Blizzards have scrambled their scanners, but the systems are being recalibrated, and soon they'll be under lock and key. So, and so Vindicator kind of blows into that mall, and even then he's like, "Oh, stupid. I'm gonna scare everybody." So, of course, he sees Banshee, and Banshee recognizes him, and he says, "You're the guy that almost killed Moira." So he tries to scream, but he can't, and he falls down. And Vindicator's like, "What happened?" He started to scream, and then he doubled down in agony. And he says, "Easy, Banshee. Don't try to talk. I'll phone in for a doctor." And we go down here. "Oh, I hope he's all right." And of course, Storm is like, "Pray that he is assassin, or you will pay the price." And of course, it's Storm who's incredibly upset. "Twice you have attacked us, James Hudson, though we have never done you any harm. But I promise you, by all I hold dear." Real quick, look at all the different screen tones that Terry Austin is using here. It just looks very good. Um, there will not be a third, she says, and just boom. "You once spoke of power. Little man, you do not know the meaning of the word." And this one says, "Miss Ororo, please stop it. You're wrecking my store." And of course, people are like, "Wow, I didn't realize she was so powerful." And this lady's like, "Oh, my poor store." And Banshee's like, "Ororo, let Hudson go. We've got to warn Scott, help the others." And says, "Help me up." And Vindicator's like, "So much for my macho pride. No way I can handle that woman alone, not without risking the destruction of this mall and everyone in it. Some superhero and team leader I'm turning out to be. Perhaps Heather was right. I'm just not cut for this kind of life. I never wanted the job in the first place. From the beginning, I meant it for Wolverine." So Wolverine was supposed to be the leader of Alpha Flight. Real quick, I do kind of enjoy this his costume. It's a good design by Byrne. So, and so Cyclops sees Vindicator. Um, Cyclops figures that he must have his own kind of cerebral system, and that's how he finds the X-Men again. So here comes Wolverine. Um, Again, look at this wonderful screenstone, and he's kind of in a shady side of town because that's more his thing. And you're gonna see Sasquatch kind of waiting for him and catches from behind. I love it when they do this, but the hat's still there. It's a cartoon trick, which I think works great in comic books. And Sasquatch hits him on one side, then the other side, and then knocks him out, and then carries him. So we get to the end. He says, "Do you know which way they went, lad? I'm sorry." Uh, and Sacco says, "Don't, Sean. You did your best. Colleen and Misty are phoning their lawyer boss, Jaren Hogarth, to get us some legal help. But I'm not going to wait. Wolverine and Nightcrawler are still missing. We have to figure that they've been captured, and the X-Men didn't start this fight. But we sure as hell are going to finish it, if necessary, over Alpha Flight's dead body." So this would conclude the issues, except, as I told you before, there is a backup story. So we're gonna go right to it here. So, um, and so we're in Calgary 20 years ago, and here's Wolverine doing oh, what are these things called? Not thumb wrestling, Jesus, arm wrestling, and so these people are all betting, and so Wolverine, of course, these people are like, "Oh, we're being taken after he won." So I love how it goes from cartoony to kind of serious. And so we got Banshee and a Wolverine. Of course, this is kind of a story about how they uh, didn't realize they met before. Sean Cassidy used to be a police officer. So, and of course, this guy says no man alive can drink that much and keep his wits. Of course, Wolverine has a healing factor. So he burns off the alcohol. So Cyclops goes in to join, and I believe this is Nightcrawler with his image inducer. Of course, there is Banshee, and so he was a police officer um, in Ireland of some kind, but he's looking for someone. And so we've been spending a lot of time here. So essentially what's going to happen is he Banshee uses a distraction caused by Wolverine, uh, though they weren't working together, to be able to um, he's able to then get the guy that he's after, and was able to, like I said, get everything going because Wolverine and this guy were fighting. So that's essentially the moral of the story. Very cartoony. Like I said, John Bolton is able to draw serious and draw cartoony. So they're both fun, but I do much more prefer the serious portion. So, and that's essentially the end of our story. So we end with a pinup, and of course this was the original cover done in the back. So all right, Classic X-Men number 26, Chris Claremont, John Byrne. Supplemental materials by Kieran Doyer, and the backup by Tom Orzakowski and John Bolton. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.